Forrest Dirk podcast, and we are live reacting to some NBA trades because the NBA season decided to wake up after its slumber for a couple months here. I'm joined by my co-host, as always, Drew Semler. Drew, how are you?
Dude, I thought for a second that I had lost track of time. At like noon today, I thought, oh, the trade deadline's today, and I completely forgot. I Googled it, reminded myself it's in 2 days. Today was the beginning of NBA Black Friday, and I'm just grateful to be here. I'm sick as a dog, gums hurt, all the things that happen when the sinus infection hits you in the office, and we're going to find a way. Hey, Coach Godnick, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to be here. Just getting over being sick as a dog, and sorry to pass it along to you, but that's why you brought in the reinforcement.
Andy flew to Kansas this past weekend to see Jaren Peterson take on Dybantsa. He went to Patrick Mahomes' steakhouse and came away with severe food poisoning. We have reason to believe it was not Mahomes' cuisine.
You have reason to believe. I have reason to believe it is Mahomes' cuisine.
We're not good on the whole timing of gastroenterological disorders on this podcast, but Andy was sick as a dog as well, could not go to Allen Fieldhouse, missed the game. I'm not even sure if he was able to watch it in the hotel room, but he's on the pod, so we're going to fix this week up for him.
Yeah. We're going to get to what we were initially planning on podding tonight, which was the top four of this stacked NBA draft class, one of the best in recent memory. But then the NBA decided to go a little bit crazy today. And first of all, I think the NBA needs to figure out how to make the trade deadline come after the Super Bowl, because this is the most interesting time of the year of the regular season. And they need to be capitalizing on people moving from football into basketball instead of being drowned out in the noise of the Super Bowl. But we're going to start with a move that was started to be heavily rumored yesterday. James Harden to the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius, Garland, and a second-round pick. This kind of came out of nowhere. Drew, your first reaction to the trade was?
We went from Sexland to Hardland, and America is now Softland. I can't believe this is real. When a trade makes this little sense in the NBA and Nico Harrison is not involved, I've been taught to follow the money, as you do in American politics. And I think that's what's going on here. I just refuse to believe that Cleveland thinks in a vacuum, that even the season that James Harden has had this year makes him more valuable than an injury-riddled Darius Garland at his age. I just refuse to believe they value Harden as an asset more. This is a win now, and probably I haven't done the tax math myself, but I think this will just give them a path to getting below the second apron, which for our more casual listeners, the second apron is an incredibly difficult obstacle for a lot of these teams that are, paying their guys a lot of money. You're not allowed to aggregate contracts and trades. You literally cannot trade two guys to another team, and it just makes your roster flexibility a whole puzzle. So I think that's why Cleveland's doing it. I'm so sad that they've given up on the Garland asset at this point in its trajectory. But I think Harden's contract included a 15% trade kicker. It looks like that was slashed from $2.3 million down to $266. So that's one of the shocks of the season. James Harden accepted a slight pay cut, like he did in Philly, to his credit. Yep. But I'd just be really down in the dumps if I were a Cleveland fan right now, because Evan Mobley's been out. The team hasn't performed like they did last year. Outside of some really fun Jalen Tyson flashes, it just feels like the value of the roster is on the decline, and it looked like they were on a path to winning for a long time.
Yeah, and Harden's raw numbers are better than Garland's this year, but you can't go on that. Garland, he's younger. Coach, you rooted for James Harden as a member of the Brooklyn Nets, your team, for a couple years. What's your read on all this, having now been privy to multiple James Harden force outs?
Rooted is a very interesting word to use there, as I was a notable let's not say hater, let's say lack of fan of James Harden on the Brooklyn Nets. And once he left as well, I have the same stance as Drew and yourself. I absolutely hate it for Cleveland. Huge Garland fan, again, with the asset, just getting off of it for James Harden. I really don't understand. Also attaching a second-round pick, Garland's the kind of guy that you really would think that you're getting in assets for to come into the team. The Harden fit is really weird, too, with Donovan needing the ball. Harden needs the ball. Your entire play style changes once Harden gets to the team. As a Brooklyn Nets fan, as an NBA watcher, I think everyone knows that. And especially come playoff time, too, when the game slows down, and I'd rather have the ball in Donovan's hand than James's hand. That's going to be really hard to convince James that's really the case. But at the end of the day, James finally gets to play with Jarrett Allen, as it was meant to be with the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, and not that Garland is some stalwart on the defensive end, but the James Harden, Donovan Mitchell backcourt is going to be, for as long as it's together, which I'm not sure, frankly, how long that's going to be. I don't know if this trade was made with a Harden extension in mind for the Cavs, or if this trade was made purely as a monetary, like, we get a shot at it this year and then we'll flip them for something else down the line. But as long as it's together, that Donovan Mitchell, James Harden backcourt is going to be like absolute barbecue chicken on the defensive end.
Yeah, but what's the Clippers' record in their last 20? And he still ended up here again?
16-4.
16-4, and he wants out. I saw the Bill Simmons reel where he's saying maybe they offended him by, talking about this trade, maybe went behind his back and then it stalled and he knew, and suddenly he says, fuck you, I'm out. Like, sorry, man, it's part of the business. You're not a guy that teams build their futures around anymore. But the last thing I want to say before I pass it to Coach, I am going to have the highest usage rate today because, again, I'm sick. I'm usually shy. But this is such a fuck you to the rest of the East. This is Cleveland saying, like, we really don't think we have to be that good to get over the hump in the East. And they're probably right. Look at the landscape. And they probably just doubt Garland's ability to get healthy and find a rhythm in time for the most important games this year. And so they're going all in on, money flexibility in the near term and winnability this year. And I think it'll prove short-sighted. I think Darius Garland's trade value has not yet peaked in the NBA. And I just believe in him. Like, he's a good vibes player. I know he's a sieve on defense. I know he presents all of the conundrums that your typical guard his size does, but that he is a special straw that will stir a drink somewhere for a winning team.
He's someone whose impact goes beyond box score stats, it feels like. And Harden is like, for his career, has always been the preeminent box score guy, maybe the best box score filler we've seen in the last 10 years, him and Russ. But Garland, his contribution to ball movement, his ability to penetrate. Drew, you always say, like, non-Kyrie division, who's got the best handle in the NBA? Like, Garland has a good argument for that in terms of that sort of next generation with his wiggle and his ability to play make. So, yeah, it's a weird move for Cleveland. I know that, short term, Garland has barely played this year. Apparently they were looking into putting more plates into his shoes so he could play through whatever foot injury he has now, which is, feet are never anything to play around with in the NBA. But if he can play and be like a real contributor for the Clippers, I like it for them. And you're not going to have Harden disappearing in 3 out of your 6 first-round playoff games. You sign Garland you have Garland locked up for a while. You have cap space from other stuff, and you actually now have an avenue to pivot towards a younger team once Kawhi kind of ages out. Garland Zubats is an interesting pick and roll duo. And Harden's going to be, good feeding lobs to Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley, but I don't really get it as a medium-term move for Cleveland. And it seems like it either is a desperate move or that they're trying to line up for something else, and that the jury's still out on whatever, like the pieces are going to fall finally for them.
Yeah, and like I was going to say that too, Max, about the Zubac fit with Garland there. I really like that. I think it'd be really fun to watch too, especially with athletes on the wings around Garland. Like, I'm really excited to watch what Tyler can do there. And the thing that I'm just confused about from the Cleveland perspective is, like, I think Harden, and I never say good things about Harden, he's a really good regular season floor lifter. He can really get you to 45, 50 wins now in the NBA with a decent team around him. But we see what he does in the postseason. And I know that Cleveland this year is different than years past, where they're having a great regular season and the postseason they fall apart. This year they're obviously struggling. But like, if Cleveland's whole thing coming into the season was how are we going to take that next step in the playoffs, James Harden is on the bottom of the list of the answers that I'm really looking for. Like, you're going to see, I think, a little bit of stunts in the growth of certain players around Harden as well there. It's really confusing me. I think Tyson, who was having a great season there, can really take a step back as well next to Harden, because now the ball is going to be in Harden's hands there. Yeah, I am shocked. I'm not shocked because we saw it coming through yesterday, but I just don't see the fit whatsoever.
Got a message in the chat to breathe through my nose from Nate. I can't breathe through my nose right now, but in general, mouth breathing is an issue, and it's probably impacting my facial structure over time. But thanks for keeping me in the moment, Nate.
The mic's good.
Yeah, it's a great mic, Shure V6. But I just can't believe it. I can't believe we're talking Harden this late in the game. I can't believe Cleveland. I know it's been year after year of the Cleveland injuries, but they were still just in a place where you don't sell on that sort of asset. I just and on the most basic level, Cleveland goes from DeAndre Hunter and Darius Garland to Keon Ellis, who I really like, but I'm not sure I like him more than DeAndre Hunter, and 36-year-old James Harden, who hates everywhere he goes, even when they win. So, yeah, scary times for Cleveland.
And just to recap, and this has been done in a few places, but to recap,
we got Chirons, by the way. This is a real pod now.
The James Harden journey to this point was, traded against his will to Houston. Then he goes to Houston. They trade for Dwight Howard. And I know I'm kind of just rehashing that famous Dallas halftime commentator rant, but he goes to Houston. Dwight Howard goes there because he needs another star. And then he doesn't like playing with Dwight, and Dwight gets traded. Then Chris Paul comes in. That goes really well. And then he gets tired of playing with Chris Paul. Chris Paul gets shipped out for Russell Westbrook, again at Harden's behest. Then that doesn't work out. Harden shows up in a fat suit and demands a trade to the Brooklyn Nets. He goes to the Nets. That works out for like 12 games. And then he once again demands a trade back to Daryl Morey with the Sixers. Within 24 months, we've got him telling a group of young Chinese children that Daryl Morey is a liar and he's never going to play for him again. And then he's a Clipper. And then all of a sudden, after the Clippers go 16-4, after it seemed like they were dead and gone, he asked out again. So it's really just a special run of, clearly just bag chasing from Harden. Like it's all about getting the next extension for him, which I respect the fact that he's at this point very transparent in his motivations. Like, it'd be fun to play on a competitive winning team, but it's really just about nailing down the next extension, which hey, more power to him, but not someone who I would want to be in the business of employing on my basketball team if I was trying to compete for championships. But that is just me. That was
I just want to say our legal team asked me to add there were some Chinese adults witnessing that speech. All right, the second trade. Let's get into Celtics Bulls. Vucevic for Anthony Simons and some second round capital. Max, your thoughts?
I was pretty low on Vucevic, and I'm pretty low on Vuce. And then when Brad Stevens traded for him, I was like, wait, am I wrong? I think I might be wrong. So I hate the fact that the Celtics traded for someone who's going to help them in a playoff run this year, because their big issue this year is they just didn't have any big depth behind Neemias Queta. And now they have a guy who at least offensively can look a lot like how Al Horford looked for them over the past couple of years in terms of a dribble, pass, shoot big. He's shooting decent percentage on three this year. And defensively, he's not going to be great, but I'd bring him off the bench and just use him as like a better version of Luka Garza. And maybe they were definitely trying to get a little bit more for Anthony Simons than they ended up getting, but it ended up being Vooch. I think it's a fine move. I think he's doesn't raise their ceiling a ton, but makes them decidedly more annoying to play against both in the regular season and playoffs this year. And we'll see if he sticks there beyond this year. It could just be a salary saving move. He's an expiring guy. But does show, I feel like, that they're trying to go for it in a real way this year. And probably that Tatum's going to be back before the end of the year.
Yeah, I thought, I think Simons is like a little bit redundant for that team, especially with Pritchard and White. You got Jalen, who has the ball in his hands. Like, they didn't really need him there. I agree with you, Matt, for maybe they were looking to get a little bit more, but I am interested to see what Vucevic can put together offensively with Boston, because I think defensively you know what you're getting, and that's absolutely nothing there. I think in a coaching scheme with Missoula as well, it's going to be really intriguing, where they're just going, all in on the three-point shot. As many players on the floor that can, as you're saying, dribble, pass, shoot the ball on the court as possible is kind of the route that they are going. But I think playoff basketball comes down to like half-court defense, and I don't think Vucevic can really be on the floor for that kind of last-minute kind of basketball there. But offensively, I am kind of intrigued to see what really comes of it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Vucevic for $21.5 million more than Anthony for 27.7. I am the resident Anthony scholar here. I find it hilarious that Simmons said he's come around on Anthony Simons. Like, yeah, he's come around on Anthony Simons as the seventh man on the Celtics team, where he just has to come in, space the floor, find pockets of space in transition, and he's got a lot of defensive coverage, but I like this move. I don't think Luka Garza was the backup center they wanted to go into the playoffs with, now that this team is, should be taken seriously. I really like Nimi Keita. Like, I think that he's actually a low-level starter in the NBA, but he's probably even more effective now, not being stretched quite as thin. It's a lot of minutes where you lean offense, lean the spacing that Vucevic can supply in moments. Totally makes sense. The fact that Boston gets off longer term money and gets the better contract, it just feels more like Boston Mafia corruption.
Yeah. Brad Stevens just continues to terrify me as a fan of another Eastern Conference team, and is, I think, clearly the second best GM in the league behind Presti at this point.
And if anyone is going to get an ounce of defense out of Vooch, it's Missoula. I feel like right now, Noah Dalzell is going to be posting a clip of Vooch sliding his feet like he never has before in his mid-30s, because that's just sort of the culture they've established. It's why they've been able to, stay so relevant without Jason Tatum. It's why their role players always step up in these close games. So, yeah, Boston continues to find a way.
Yeah. Should we talk Jaren? Or, Coach, you have any other thoughts on Vooch?
Let's do
Also, quick note, I'm not sure what the Bulls are doing. I'm kind of curious to see where this all goes, because their roster is now almost entirely guards. They've got Kobe White. They're probably going to trade either one of Kobe White or Ayo Dosunmu. I bet there's a lot of contending teams that would be interested in Ayo as a bench guard or a starting guard. Who knows? If the Lakers got Ayo Dosunmu, we'd probably start for them. So I'm curious to see where they
was
go.
Ayo in this trade?
No, he wasn't.
No.
But they have Ayo, Kobe White, Simons, Giddey. I feel like they got a guard in that Dennis Schroeder deal that went to Cleveland. I feel like they somehow ended up with another guard. Curious to see what happens there. They're definitely not done.
I am curious too, and usually I'm not really following what Chicago's doing in terms of agreeing with it. I'm a huge Ivey fan.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm a huge proponent of, getting the really good asset there. And I think, they're not getting rid of anything that really matters for their long-term trajectory, which I don't think even Chicago knows what their long-term plan is. But if it's around Jaden Ivey, I'm fully on board for it, even though there's a plethora of guards around him too. If he's one of them, I think it's, worth the actual swing for them.
Yeah, we can hit on Ivy quick. I was shocked that all he got traded for was Kevin Huerter. Maybe not shocked, because he's been a bench player for the Pistons this year. And it's gone he's just had a rough start to his career, kind of luck-wise, where he had takes guards a while, but he had a rough rookie year. Second year, Monty Williams came in, and the team didn't make any sense. He was being benched for Killian Hayes. He's clearly better. And then the year after that, his third year, this past season, he actually started to really show some things. His three-point shot was coming along. He was scoring 18 points a game and just really looking like a dynamic player. And then he breaks his leg. And then this year, coming back from breaking his leg, it took him – he didn't play until 20 games into the season or however many it was. And then he's just kind of working his way back into a team that's rolling without him. And he gets traded for Kevin Huerter, who is a shooter who's currently shooting 31% from three on the season. Although, you obviously expect him to shoot better than that going forward. But yeah, again, agree with you. Not a fan of the Bulls front office in general, but I like scooping up Ivey as like a second draft guy for basically nothing.
Yeah. Isn't the silver lining of a guy like Jaden Ivey having such a tough few first years in the NBA that like his second deal could be really appealing? I don't know why you don't try to keep him around again, like Garland, like rehab the trade stock, maybe sign him on a more team-friendly deal. You couldn't do that with Garland. He's locked into the money for a couple more years. But with Ivey, like I just have a feeling even if he's nowhere as good as he should end up in the NBA, he'll still be an appealing guy on his next deal. And also, if he can't be the on-ball guy that we all fantasize Jaden Ivey might be one day, I could see like his catch and shoot game continuing to stabilize, and he's like a really useful slasher off the ball. This isn't the last we'll hear of Jaden Ivey. It's been an awful series of events as you detailed, but I hope he gets a shot.
Yeah.
Just one more thing on Jaden Ivey there. Like, where the other team in this trade was Minnesota. If Minnesota gets Ivey, he's starting for that team. Like, they're looking for point guard help there too. Like, I am not quitting on Ivey, and I think that there's teams out there as well that, this might not be the actual last stop for him too.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk the other big trade from today, which was definitely the most shocking one, of Jaren Jackson going from Memphis to the Utah Jazz. I feel like the Utah always moves in silence. Like way back in the day, the Darren Williams trade to the Nets, like there was zero noise about it before it happened. Jaren Jackson for 3 firsts that are sort of middling value, I'd say. And a lot of players actually who got thrown into this deal that I'm a lot more interested in than the picks, going both ways, honestly. But Drew, your initial read, do you like the Utah sort of pushing in, not all the chips, but a good deal of chips for Jaren Jackson? Do you think like it makes sense for them where they are right now?
I like it. I like teams that want to be good, especially teams that have sucked for a little while. Like, you got to put your chips somewhere. And I was shocked by this. I didn't think this was their timeline. Not that they're like a significant, fighter in the West now, but Jaren Jackson is, by the way, if Kessler comes back next year and is healthy, which is no guarantee, because what was his serious injury? Was it an Achilles?
No, I feel like it was an upper body thing, but I can't remember.
Shoulder? Oh, okay. Well, if Kessler is himself next year, there isn't a better guy to put next to him in the league than Jaren Jackson. I don't love that they're going all in on Keontae George, and I know that looks insane with the numbers Keontae George has put up so far this year. Like, he's actually having an insane season. I updated my view of the Keontae stats today. He's averaging like 6.5 free throw attempts a game. The efficiency after the first couple of years not being efficient is just sublime this year. So they obviously think he's their lead guard of the future and their go-to scorer. I don't know what this means for Lowry. Like, maybe this team is going to be really good next year, but giving up Walter Clayton and the firsts, it feels a little bit aggressive, but also 3 future firsts, like, you just pray one of those guys will end up as good as Jaren Jackson Jr. despite his flaws.
Yeah, and the first, it sounds exciting at first because they're coming from Utah, who's not a very good team at the moment, but only one of the first is actually a Jazz first, and it's next year where, yeah, it'll probably be in the 10 to 16 range, I would guess, if they're like a low-level playoff team, play in, back half of the lottery. And next year's draft is also supposed to be a really weak draft by comparison. This year's draft, as we'll talk about once we get through the trades, is one of the strongest that we've seen in years, especially at the top. Next year's class, we're seeing sort of the regression as far as it's going to look a lot more like 2024's class, where like there wasn't really any kind of top prospect that was available. And it's like starting a normal draft, however many spots down, 6, 7, 8. So the fact that 2 of the picks are in the 2027 draft, definitely, and one of them's from the Lakers too, which is also probably going to be in the late teens. And then the most valuable pick probably is that 2031 Phoenix pick, which, like, who knows? I thought Phoenix would suck they're good this year. Maybe that means they have a good culture. Maybe it's a flash in the pan, and 6 years from now, they're going to suck again.
But again, too many teams are okay sucking for 5 years. Once in a while, I know it sounds irresponsible. Fuck the 2031 pick. It doesn't exist. At some point, you've got to win for your fans. Ask the Blazers fan and the Nets fan in this call right now. So Walter Clayton Jr. is the only asset I'd really be sad about parting ways with. But what struck me, when I first looked at this deal is the Jazz get 4 good players. Jaren, great player. However you feel about the contract, he's a winning player. Landale, dog. Like he belongs in an NBA rotation.
Serviceable backup big for sure.
If Ime likes playing him, you want him on your playoff team. John Conchar, this is the John Conchar trade for the real ones. Little stocks merchant.
John Hollinger, is John Hollinger the real ones?
I like John Conchar. I have a feeling he's probably one of the best practice players in the NBA. And Vince Williams, who's like a versatile switchblade, can play like 4 positions in a pinch.
Yeah. I was shocked that he was just like thrown into this deal because he's not making any money, I don't think. So he was just like, we'd like Vince Williams too. I'm pretty sure he's on like a 2nd round contract.
So I come away from this just saying, like, I don't love Keontae George. I wouldn't go all in on him. I actually probably would have sold highest on Keontae and tried to give Walter Clayton a chance. I just believe in that guy that much. But the Jazz have a lot of good players now.
They do.
I absolutely love it as well. I'm really excited to watch Utah Jazz basketball the rest of the year. I'm really excited to watch Utah Jazz basketball next year when all these guys are together. As you were saying, Kessler hopefully back as well. The size of a front court with Jaren, with Laurie, with Walker is mesmerizing there. Like the versatility there could be really special. And then obviously I know Max wants to talk about it too, but like with their 1st round pick this year being protected as well, like if you can add a real top guy to that roster from this draft, like Utah could have something that's similar to what Charlotte's doing right now next year, where it's a lot of young pieces together, some veterans who are playing really well there too, and putting together some really good basketball that they haven't seen for quite some time. And I fully am aligned with Drew, where sometimes just go for it. Like, you're a bad team, let's change up by getting a really good player. That might not be the perfect fit, but why not do it?
Yeah, so their pick is this year is top 8 protected. They're currently in the 6th draft slot, and I have a hard time believing they're going to catch any of the teams in front of them. Maybe they will, but Washington, Brooklyn, Indiana, New Orleans, and Sacramento are playing some pretty aggressively bad basketball this year. Now they're 4 games up tank-wise on Milwaukee and Dallas and Memphis. So like with Milwaukee and Memphis bottoming out, I'm not sure either of those teams are going to catch Utah in the tank race. It would suck if they just traded him when he literally just played a game the other night and then they just shut him down for the rest of the season with a bullshit injury. Like, I would hate that as an NBA fan. We were already seeing with Trae Young, which I hate as a Knicks fan, but like as an NBA fan, if we've got these 2 teams trading for all-stars in the middle of the season and Trae Young and Jaren Jackson, and neither of them are going to play at all down the course of the season just so they can keep their protected picks, like that seems like an issue that the NBA needs to figure out. I was going to say this feels like this is as crazy as it gets maybe with the modern CBA at trade deadlines. Unless we get a Giannis trade, like these are the sort of deals you see. Like Memphis is going cap sponge mode. I saw someone reported that they're building around Zach Edey and Cedric Howard. Cedric Howard had a crazy 2-handed dunk, jumping off 2 feet, doing it as he does. We know how I feel about Cedric Howard, but one of the more interesting subplots of this Grizzlies season is that in the very few games that Zach Edey has played, he's looked incredible. Like he might not be able to stay healthy. It's starting to get scary with that body. So yowish.
Per minute, Edey has been an animal. He's been better defensively than I ever dreamed of, like especially this early in his career. And so, Memphis is building around a new set of young players, and they gave up a lot of good players. Landau will hit free agency most likely next year. The other players they gave up are locked in for at least 1 more year.
Hendricks is solid too. I like him as a pickup for them. Like 3-and-D forward. He had a horrific like leg snapped in half type injury last season and hasn't really gotten to show himself yet. But I think he's going to be a solid pro as well. The only thing with this, with Utah, and I get the, you want to acquire good players, and I do think it is good value. The Markkanen, Jaren, Kessler trio does seem strange to me, and I know they're all huge, but and Markkanen can shoot, Jaren can kind of shoot, which opens up the ability to actually play all those guys together, despite how huge they are. They're going to have zero perimeter defense whatsoever between Keontae George and Lauri Markkanen and whoever's starting at the 2, Ace Bailey. There's your other guy, coach, Ace Bailey and James Harden. I don't totally understand. I mean, I guess they can funnel all of the perimeter guys into the Walker Kessler Jaren rim protection duo, which is quite formidable. And Kessler and Jaren as a duo, I think is awesome. But I do still feel like that I'm not positive Lauri's going to be there for the long term, or they're going to pick 2 out of those 3 guys. But then the other thing is this whole thing now hinges on them hitting on their first this year, keeping their first, and then using it to draft some elite perimeter creator, whether it's Darren Peterson, who we're going to talk about, which is a low likelihood at this case, but anything's possible, just in terms of lottery odds. And then some other guys, Keaton Wagler, Kingston Flemings. If they get another point guard or 2 guard who really hits, and they can plug them in between Keontae and their 3 bigs now. So yeah, it's an interesting trade. It's a weird trade. I think there's still going to be some stuff that filters out over the next couple of days that might clarify the approach a little bit more for both teams. From the Memphis perspective, I think it's just crazy that the Ja Jaren Bane Grizzlies just kind of fizzled out. They were top 2-3 seed for a few years in a row there, and they really peaked in that game 2 against the Warriors in 2022, where Ja had 47 points. They were in Golden State. They tied the series at a game apiece, and it seemed like this was a young ascending team that was going to just keep going up and be a Western Conference contender for years to come. And then they never won a playoff series again. Ja had the whole gun fiasco and then injuries. They trade Bane, and now they trade Jackson. I assume that trade is going to be around the corner, whether it's before the deadline or over the summer. But it just goes to show that these young ascending teams doesn't mean you have a 10-year runway. It can end really fast.
I always say this, Spurs fans, don't talk about 15 years of Wemby. I mean, Wemby's a different case because he's got a unique body. But yeah, I thought Ja had found a small guard, non-3-point shooting, go-to move in the playoffs, which is just drive middle and rise over a big, a few feet in front of the free throw line. It was working against Golden State in that series before he got hurt. I do wonder if Memphis looked into ways to get really good again, and then got a sense of where Ja was at mentally this year. And they were just we can't build around this core. The timeline is just it's not ready. These guys aren't ready to lead us going forward. And so they bailed. And in retrospect, that was a nice perk of the Bane trade. It gave them the versatility to package those picks. If they, were okay parting ways with Coward, they could have put things together to make a move to kind of get back in the game. And they saw Ja, they saw, some of the flaws in Jaren's game, and got the sense that it's just time to move the window a little bit, especially with the Edey injury. And again, both of these teams are just praying that their 7-1 plus center can get healthy, because if Edey can't stay healthy and Walker Kessler can't stay healthy, it changes the outlook and probably really impacts, how we'll look back on this trade.
Yeah. All right. Any last notes on that one? Or just trades in general? There's a couple things Minnesota open cap space by salary dumping Mike Conley for.
They're getting Giannis. They're getting Giannis. I'm calling it in now. I'm calling it now. The tea leaves have been read.
If the Timberwolves trade the package that the Knicks traded them for Karl Anthony Towns for Giannis, I'm going to lose my mind. We might have to.
That'll be the best moment in Nets history.
Bart Scott, can't wait. If I can just put that right here.
If it's if it's Randall and DiVincenzo and however many first round picks they have available to trade, It seems like the headline piece is going to be Jaden McDaniels, which is a great get for Milwaukee. Like, he's a high trade value guy and has really grown as an offensive player this year. He's 50, 40, 80 or 50, 40, 85. I think he's like really high percentages, but if I assume
fun little asterisk there. Max and I were live streaming the draft. We don't agree on every prospect, but we both agreed that Rob Dillingham was drastically overvalued.
Yeah.
That might end up being the difference between Minnesota comfortable with the package going out for Giannis versus we can't do this right now, let's run it back, which would also be understandable given they've made back-to-back conference finals. But
not having that future pick, you mean?
Yeah. If they traded up to 8, let's just accept that they were going to go up to that pick and took Booz Ellis or maybe Jalen Tyson, somebody that Milwaukee could get excited about as a side dish in the trade. They might have enough, but it feels like they'd have to gut themselves too much for my liking for Giannis, considering how good the Nuggets look, how good the Thunder still are, how scary the Spurs are now. I haven't looked into it enough to know whether I do it, but it does feel like Minnesota has the good buzz right now.
Yeah. I don't know if the Bucks were watching the Knicks tonight. Mohamed Diawara looked pretty good. Maybe he could.
Oh God, that dude has the J-Dub posture. His head is like 1 foot out in front of his body.
Yeah, the new scout measurement I need is neck length, because like the guys with the really high shoulders and short necks, like J-Dub, Cedric Coward.
Yeah, they should have a Jalen Suggs sponsored corner of the combine where they just see how many sweatbands they can put on your neck.
If we're talking New York markets for Giannis as well, Giannis should look at what Jaeger is doing right now too, in our 16-point loss to the Lakers. But
was it only 16? Because when I checked,
they were down by like 30 something. Yeah, they were down by 30 something early. But Jaeger likes to do it in the fourth quarter.
I thought we were trending towards
three words. Day'Ron Sharp.
I thought we were trending towards our third 50-point loss of the season for the Nets.
All right,
it'll be
let's
keep
it moving.
The only other stuff to cover with the trades, Minnesota, see what they do, is at the Giannis place. Detroit adding kind of a Malik Beasley replacement and Kevin Huerter, see if that ends up working for them. It hurts to lose Ivey, but he is the type of piece that they need as far as shooting. And we'll see if anything happens with Giannis, see if anything happens with Jared Allen. If I'm the Lakers, I would be all over Jared Allen, trying to offer as much as I can. Like, this is the type of guy that you try to pair with Luka Doncic as a rim running 5. He's the same age. He can protect the rim. He can throw down lobs. He's never played with a sort of lob creator of Luka's degree. So I would be all over it if I was them, but they probably won't be. And they probably don't.
And I'll just reiterate as we move on to some draft talk. Memphis, I think, is going to be a yard sale now. I don't think that's a warm take. Deadline facilitators have more leverage now than they did before the aprons. There are just so many teams desperate to get in better money situations. And so Memphis probably, wouldn't want to sell where the stock is right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just sold everything for pieces now.
Yeah. All right. Any last trade words, Coach, before we go to the prospects? All right. The initial idea for this pod was to talk through the top of the draft, the top 4 prospects, let's say, and then anyone else we want to throw in there, because usually we save draft content for later in the season. But this is one of the most hyped classes and just like special freshman classes that we've seen in a while. We've got Darren Peterson, who put on an absolute show against BYU over the weekend. Our Boris Dirk draft correspondent, Coach Andy Godnick, was going to travel to Kansas to see that game in person. He did travel to Kansas, as Drew covered at the top of the show. He got food poisoning and spent the weekend in his hotel room instead of at the Allen Fieldhouse, which truly is horrible. But let's start at the top. Do we all agree that Darren Peterson is the best player in this class?
I do. And Coach gave the thumbs up because he's not used to the audio medium. Yeah, I'm there. I think he's really special. I'm going to have to do some recon in these last couple months leading up to the draft. We've got more than a couple. Just what's going on with his health, the relationship with the agent, because you see some weird stuff like the agents talking to the coaches during the game. I don't like that stuff. That smells a little Ace Bailey to me, just psychologically. But when he's on the floor, he's not Ace Bailey. When he's on the floor, this looks like one of the best guard prospects of our lifetimes, and just a ready-made offensive engine for the league as we know it. There's some Shea in there. There's a little bit of Ant with the explosive downhill. He loves a dribble pull-up. This guy's game is electric. And also, even in the limited minutes and the limited appearances, when he's on the floor, he looks like a man amongst boys. I saw someone say, like, he's the most polished guard they've seen at the college level since Kyrie, which is interesting because Kyrie also, like, barely played in college. Yeah. But some guards, you give them the ball in high major college basketball, and even today against 25-year-olds in a different college landscape, and Jaren Peterson looks like the 27-year-old who was drafted by the Knicks, played in Westchester, and then went back to dominate the Big 12.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm just learning.
And he's 19.
So he is 19. And a couple of things about Darren that I feel like we always hear the same things about him, like just a few different things. Like there's an interview from Bill Self earlier in the season, before the season actually started, and it was saying that Darren during practice like dominated a full scrimmage of only making threes. And the most impressive part was that Darren's best quality is not that he's like a perimeter shooter. He can do it like literally everything. I think at the next level, he's going to dominate the game at every single level, from the free throw line, from three, from mid range, getting to the rack. Like he'll literally be able to do anything. And something also reminded me, I remember Drew during the Bub Carrington draft was telling me about how his shot is very consistent in the shot type and the form. And I see a lot of that in Darren's shot as well, whether it be from three, whether it be on that dribble pull-up, as you were saying. Like, it's very consistent, which is something I really like to see from draftees at coming into the next level, where, like, they're going to be going against stronger defenders. How can you get that consistent shot up at every single spot on the floor? He has that. And there was a play as well that I think he has really strong hands, like defensively, offensively too, but he can, like, rake when he's off ball, get a steal. There was a play against BYU as I was barely surviving in my hotel room watching on the TV. He raked it, stole it, went the entire way, got off of the ball. The ball found him again because he's not this like ball hog where the ball just, dies on the floor with him. Got it back off of a ball screen, found the cross-court shooter. Like, he does everything that impacts winning. I agree with Drew. I don't love the agent stuff, the missing the games, but like sometimes talent overtakes that, and he's one of the guys where it's just really different with him.
Yeah. And for anyone who has not like watched Jaren Peterson before, just to kind of level set on who we're talking about here, 6'6", and is like in the sort of Donovan Mitchell, like he can be a lead guard, he can be an off guard, except he's way bigger than Donovan Mitchell at 6'6". Mitchell's probably like 6'2". Great length. Looks like he can add a ton of muscle to his frame already. Like he already has kind of almost like a wiry strength to him. And with NBA training regimens, like that's even just going to get better. And just an absolutely supreme shot maker, like from 2 and 3. My one concern with him is that in college, he has not gotten to the rim a ton. Like a lot of his shot diet is jumpers. Kind of reminds me of like when I was watching Trey Johnson last year, all of those sort of all jumpers on his shots and not getting all the way to the basket. I do think a lot of that is because of his hamstring and just the weird lingering injuries he's had. I didn't watch him in college. Apparently in high school, apparently in high school, he was much more of like a downhill type vertical athlete. Drew, you could probably speak better to that than I can, but he looks a lot like the level of polish is like Devin Booker. That's kind of who he reminds me of the most, with his like sort of balance of being more of a jump shooter than a downhill player. He's got some two-way ability, which we've seen Book tap into more over the past few years. Although I wouldn't project him to be like a lockdown two-way player, but I expect him to be awesome offensive scorer and then like holds his own on the defensive end. And he's also just, he's good because as a scorer, because even when it feels like he's quiet, and like in the Texas Tech game the other night, he was not really in the flow. He was kind of in and out. His shooting numbers weren't great. And then still at halftime, he finds his way to 10 points, which in a college game is like, if you're scoring 20 points in a college game, that's a lot. And he's doing it through free throws. He draws a lot of fouls. And then just his jumper is incredibly pure. Like, I don't know who the best comps are for him. I like Devin Booker the most, but I think he's a clear number one.
Yeah. He's also been really clutch, which just like, I think that's also been a cure to my fears of like what's going on between the ears with this guy. In the big moments, he hit those 3 free throws when he was hobbling with the hamstring against TCU. He obviously made the back-to-back threes against Texas Tech. Or wait, no, who did he just hit?
Texas Tech.
Yeah. And so all in on Darren Peterson. You mentioned the defense. I think he could be a really good defender. It's just a matter of like, will he have the cardio and the energy to take that on as he is like given the keys to an NBA offense pretty early. This guy just looks like a rare Cade Cunningham level, like defense manipulator. And I'm all in on him as the number one pick. I think I just wanted to pull us back a little bit and talk big picture draft stuff. And it'll also be a nice bow on Darren Peterson. The list of freshmen since 2008 who've had BPMs above 10 is fascinating, and it affirms for you that this is a very special draft. Number one all-time BPM of 18.7, and this is box plus minus. You know, nerds like it. It tells you a lot. Number one, Zion Williamson at Duke. 2, Anthony Davis. 3, Cam Boozer. 4, Cooper Flagg. 5, Kansas State Michael Beasley. Shout out real ones. 6, Kevin Love at UCLA. And 7, the guy we just talked about, Darren Peterson. And there are like 3 more guys in this year's class in like the top 13. 9 is Kingston Flemings. 12 is Caleb Wilson. 13 is AJ Dybantsa. This is a really special class. There's no way around it. You know, there's like so much draft marketing year to year, and we try to talk guys up. We try to believe in each year as the year of hope. This class is really special, and for teams that have intentionally sucked, lottery night could be dark as ever.
Yeah. And BPM, it's not the end all be all, but like just going through that list, every single one of those guys was either was a talent wise stud and was either
there isn't
amazing.
one guy. There isn't one guy on this list who hasn't made like $100 million in the NBA unless they, you know, just got into the league a year or two ago.
Yeah. And the only one who probably didn't make an all-star team was Michael Beasley. And like, he's one of the most talented basketball players of all time, just probably didn't have the head on his shoulders to make it in the NBA at the time that he made it. But you mentioned Cam Boozer, who was the highest person of the current freshman crop on that BPM chart. Child of Carlos Boozer for our 2000s NBA heads out there. You know, you're getting old when the guys you watch growing up are starting to have kids enter the league. Cam is not the first, and he certainly won't be the last, but he's been playing for Duke and putting up damn near the same, if not better, statistics than Cooper Flagg did last year. Eye test wise, he's a very different player from Cooper Flagg. He's a little bit more, he's not ground bound in the way that like Jokic is ground bound, but he's not a vertical athlete. He is, however, 6'9", 250 pounds, kind of a man child in terms of just overall strength, and has one of the better basketball IQs that you'll ever see from a 19-year-old. Drew, I know you are super high on Cam Boozer, so I'll let you go first. What is your sort of big picture sell job on him?
Yeah, so Darren Peterson is probably the guy I'd take one regardless of team. If anyone overtakes him by June, it'll be Cam Boozer. He doesn't have the most aesthetically sexy game. You know, he doesn't have a bag that jumps out at you. He's moves incredibly well for his size. What is he, like 6'10", 250?
Yeah.
Can play like a wing on offense. Can take the ball up the court and make some Şengün-esque passes. But there's, you know, it isn't even like Luka as a prospect where you're like, Luka, what he was doing was incredible. Like the ball handling, the screen manipulation at 18, 17 years old against the best players in Europe. Like there aren't those eye-popping moments with Cam Boozer. It's more just like take the entire sample. The dude is an absolute freight train, and he produces at historic levels. 23 points, 10 boards, 4 assists this year. Not a great block rate, but great steals for a biggish guy. And just has a reputation already in like American basketball for winning. Like he wins at every level. And he shows up to Duke and looks like, you know, a 4-year senior. Again, like Darren Peterson, but even more with Boozer. Like you'd watch this guy and be like, surely this is a 25-year-old vet. The way that he controls games and stays calm and knows himself and doesn't try to play outside of his specific athleticism. So for me, I just look at a guy, I see like some on offense, I see some Kevin Love, I see some prime Al Horford. And I like the Al Horford name a lot with him just because he moves much better defensively than a guy like Kevin Love. So like I kind of think of this as like Kevin Love on offense, Al Horford on defense maybe. And that's a really special player. Like that's a Hall of Famer. And just like I think Andy is a little bit skeptical. I know you don't disrespect this guy, but Andy has questions about the way that he scores, the way he dominates physically at this level, and whether he'll be able to do that in the league. And I'll let you talk more about that. I just want to say, like, I think this dude is too strong for 99% of NBA players. Like, I think this is real sort of Zion-esque strength. I think the shoulder bumps, the seals, the quick spins into soft finishes, like, I think a lot of this stuff is going to translate. I mentioned that he's a sick passer. And so I just trust him to find a way, Max. I know over the years you've looked for moments to give out the, like, Pistons Blake Griffin comp. This might be our best look at that. And that guy was special. He couldn't stay healthy, but, like, you know, maybe not all the defensive five you want him to be, but does just about everything else you can do on the floor to help your team win. Yeah. Coach.
Thanks for setting me up there, Drew. I absolutely love Cam. I just have Cam as my third prospect, not my second prospect, but I'll get into that later. I saw Cam play in high school as a junior in a tournament called the Throne live. And not to sound like Bill, but I do think that you learn a lot seeing a player live. And it was in like a tournament when the seniors were like the Wagner and Isaiah Collier class, and like Boozer was coming in with all of this hype and, you know, a lot of pressure there. And the thing that stood out to me, I'm talking about all like positives here, as Drew was mentioning, he's a winner. He won the entire tournament. He dominated with his strength. But what impressed me the most was that he dominated with his basketball IQ. Like, he is as smart as it gets on both ends of the floor. He always finds a way to be in the right spot offensively, too, whether it be around the rim, whether it be rolling to the rim, or either playmaking out of ball screens, too. The thing that makes me most excited about him, besides the classic intangibles with him that I absolutely love, I'm a stickler for bigs that can be inverted ball screen players. I would love to see Cam have the ball at the NBA level with a guard setting the ball screen, and you have his entire 250 frame going downhill to the rim. And I think he's a elite passer, 4.1 assists per game right now. Just had a 19 and 12 game tonight in the win against Boston College. Like, seeing that kind of skill set going downhill at the next level, I am a little wary about the strength, you know, at the next level. Would that be his most, you know, intangible skill set there? But I think his basketball IQ and his passing makes him a no doubt about a prospect at the next level. The only other thing that makes me a little bit wary about not putting him at number 2 right now, and definitely not putting him above Darren, there's something with just like, and I know you mentioned it earlier, Max, about like he's not the shout about it athlete on the court. I think there's just like a lateral second step that he's a little bit slow on, that I think if he's being switched out onto perimeter ball handlers at the next level, he might be a step slow with that. And that's why I think offensively too, he might be a step slow in terms of learning how to create his own shot, to where I think numbers wise will put him up in his rookie year, but it might take him 2-3 years to really showcase like what he can really do at the next level because of those, you know, limitations, I would say.
Yeah, I think with Boozer, Defensively, I like him as a 4 who can switch. I do think he's pretty firmly a 4. I don't see him being a good enough rim protector to be a 5. Maybe you can sprinkle him in as sort of just like an all switching lineup. And he's certainly a good enough rebounder to be a 5. I think his rebounding is incredible. It seems like he has at least 12 rebounds every game. And Duke plays just like a switch everything type of system where he's being tested and trusted to switch on the perimeter and try to guard opposing guards and perimeter players. So I like him as a switchable 4. I do think that when it comes to his sort of vertical pop, that's the only concern I have as far as finishing around the basket where everything is going to have to be a layup. Like he's not going to dunk over guys. Having said that, I see like his floor as like a smarter Julius Randle, basically. Because Randle is sort of that big bruising playmaking 4. They have very similar sort of dimensions. We'll see what the wingspan measurement is, but same height and weight. And I just think that Boozer, he's like a coach on the floor. He makes the right pass every time. Every time he gets double teamed, he kicks it out. He's a low turnover player. And if you watch him or just look at his shot chart, it's like Joe Mazzulla has like an earpiece into his ear where the only shots that he takes are layups, free throws, and threes. You never see him take a bad shot. You never see him take a bad mid-range. Maybe he'll try to force a finish over like 2 defenders at the rim. But aside from that, you just don't see like the not to contrast him to another Duke guy, but the Paolo, like, let me take my jab step mid-range right now. You just don't see him do that. He's always focused on just what is the best play on this play. And I just think between, like, from an analytics perspective, if a front office really weighs analytics heavily, like the Grizzlies, for instance, if the Grizzlies got the number 1 pick, I could very easily see them taking Cam Boozer just because they're a team that like lives and dies by the spreadsheet with their draft picks for the most part. That's why they picked Zach Edey, among other reasons. And by all the analytics nerds say like Cam Boozer is a Hall of Famer hiding in plain sight. Like there's Tim Duncan comps that get thrown around, which is a little rich for my blood, but like you see that in draft Twitter.
I think that's more about the competitiveness, the solidity, the fact that this dude just keeps showing up on national TV playing 35 minutes and showing up for his team in all of the gritty ways in addition to like the star ways.
Yeah.
He don't believe any position they try to tell you Cam Boozer plays. Like I think he might be a 1 in the NBA on offense. And here's a take for you. I think if you just slotted him into the Paolo role in Orlando, the Magic would be better tonight. Like that. Yeah. That's how good I think Cam Boozer is. And that IQ just gives, like you said, gives him such a high floor. I can't get on board with the Randle thing. I know you say smarter, but Randle's tough shot diet is just so central to his identity as a player.
Fair.
And Cam Boozer is like, there's no ego to his game. He accepts his limitations with open arms because he knows all of the ways he can hurt you with, his wide base, his post creation, the kickouts, the reposts. He knows the ball is coming back to him. He doesn't play at all like a guy who has been showered with gifts and praise since he was 13 because of who his dad is and because how good he was in AAU. He, as opposed to Dybantsa, who was more interesting to me as a prospect a few years ago, like Cam Boozer just gets better and better and better.
Yeah. And shout out Carlos Boozer for raising 2 just guys that play the right way between Cam and then his brother Caden, who plays for Duke as well. And maybe he'll come out this year. Maybe he'll be a next year prospect. But both of them just absolutely play the right way. And for the record, Randall's not my favorite comp for Boozer. I like the Love comp the best. So I agree with you there. I do think he's got some. I was trying to think of like power forwards who were.
I know you like Pistons Blake. I know you didn't have that.
I love that.
Pistons Blake is good, although Pistons Blake shot a lot of mid-rangers, which Boozer's not going to do. But I do love the playmaking sort of more ground-bound 4. That's I'm a sucker for a Pistons Blake comp. Ironically, also gave it to Paolo Banchero.
And by the way, we've talked a lot in the last couple of years about teams going bigger in certain matchups and loving the 2 big look. The Jared Allen Mobley, the Chet Hartenstein looks. There are also teams that continue to lean small. And there are a lot of wins to be stolen in the regular season. The Bulls are about to play with Jalen Smith as their go-to center. The Grizzlies center as of right now is Santi Aldama. Cam Boozer is going to put a few of these fives who should be fours in the grave. And I hope he can add a little bit of nuance to the scoring game, because Coach is right. There are limitations to the ways he gets 23 in college. He will have to adjust. Certain finishes just won't be in the cards against NBA defensive anchors. And I just trust him to figure it out.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to say real quick is I love the Pau Gasol comp for Cam Boozer. Just a little bit shorter Pau Gasol.
Comp Tourette's. Coach, go.
I was just going to mention one more thing. It's ironic on the night. Tonight he shot 0 free throws in the game, but
never mind. He's down to 7 on my board.
He does average 7.1 attempts from the line per game and shoots 76%. He's going to get fouled a lot at the next level.
Physicality.
And he makes them right now at a really good clip, and I can see that getting into the mid 80s for a guy like him too. So that's what makes me really excited about him as well.
I guarantee you that the Thunder War Room has raised the question behind closed doors in a noise canceling room. Do we just package 7 picks we've got for Cam Boozer and say, sorry, Sorber, don't hate the player, hate the knee, and let Hardenstein walk and just let Chet play next to Cam Boozer for a few years?
It's a perfect combo. Him and Star in Washington, sort of same vibe, perfect combo.
And Cam, you could slot Cam into 30 teams.
Yeah. Only other things to mention with him, which we sort of touched on, but we should emphasize, is he's an elite steals guy. His defensive hands are awesome. And the other piece of the analytics with him beyond his efficiency and shot selection is he's going to generate a ton of extra possessions through steals and offensive rebounds. I haven't gone through all the prospects in this class, but he's one of the better steals guys and one of the better rebounding guys. And the modern NBA we're seeing with teams like the Rockets, the Knicks, some of these teams that just really rely on pounding the glass, he's going to be very helpful for teams that are trying to do that. So that's the last note I wanted to hit on with him. The remaining 2 guys who we have not discussed from this consensus top 4, which may not be the top 4 of everyone in this call, are AJ Dybantsa, who probably entered the year as the most ballyhooed prospect, him and Darren sort of neck and neck, and Caleb Wilson from North Carolina, both 6'9" forwards, both purported to be supreme athletes. I would argue only one of them really is. I think we're all kind of on the same board of how we have them ordered, unless Drew, is AJ above Caleb on your board?
You cannot watch Caleb Wilson and AJ Dybantsa play basketball and tell me that Caleb Wilson is not the better 5-on-5 basketball player. If this were a 1-on-1 league, AJ might go over Darren. It's insane at 6'10", the things he can do to put the ball in the basket. And relatively speaking, I don't care. I know in my bones when I watch Caleb Wilson fight like a dog in Pascal Siakam-esque fashion for UNC, that he is the guy that I'd rather build around as a struggling NBA team in the top, third of the lottery right now.
Coach, I'll let you go with Caleb.
Who am I going with here? Caleb, or am I going with AJ?
Take your pick. I know who you want to pick.
Don't make it too boring.
I'm going to go Caleb. The reason why I have Cam at number 3 is not because I have AJ at number 2. It's because I have Caleb at number 2. I am mesmerized by Caleb Wilson. I don't say that by meaning I'm not by Cam, but I think Caleb Wilson is a different player than I've ever seen before. With him, I keep saying he moves like a gazelle in transition, in the half court, in every single aspect of basketball. He moves with a purpose, and I wrote down on my screen, motor. He just plays nonstop, competes. He has that same will to win as Cam, I believe, just at a different skill set. The thing for me as well with him, there was a play that I know was circulating on Twitter where he just blocked a shot, took it coast to coast, went between the legs, did a full spin, and just finished at the rim. Like, he does it in ways where you're thinking like, oh, that's just, like athlete, raw athleticism there, just talent. He does it with a pure thought. Offensively, I think he can do a lot with the ball in his hands. I think he can do a lot in terms of inverted ball screens. I think he can do a lot off the ball. I know, Max, when you were watching him, that little mid post turnaround he has there too. It's just like, you don't expect that coming from him there as well. Like, he's just as talented as it gets there. He has to put on muscle. He's going to get bodied in the first year in the NBA. But I think with time, once he adds that to him, he's going to be an unstoppable force offensively. I think defensively, he can be really versatile too. And if we're talking about winners, if we're talking about leaders, take a look at Caleb Wilson's social media presence. Take a look at Caleb Wilson's interviews. He has the perfect attitude. He is the perfect leader. He loves the game. He loves his team. And I am obsessed with Caleb.
Okay, so as of February 3rd, 2026, Coach has Caleb 2. I have Caleb 3 after Cam. This is like if you took 19-year-old Jeremy Grant's body and just turned up all of the athleticism sliders, like took it to another level. And that's not even an insult to Caleb. Like, the Q's fans remember, young Jeremy was a pogo stick. But similar to Coach, the first time I watched Caleb Wilson, my intro to Caleb was the Kansas game, their second game of the year. And I just wrote down second jump, chaos athlete. And I worry about the scoring polish. Like, I'm not convinced that he is going to be a number one scorer for a team. It doesn't scare me at all because, again, we always talk about this. There are only so many, like, all else fails, like, two-way superstars that I'm not expecting, like, a few of the best 20 players ever in this draft, as special as it is. But when he defends without fouling and he's just out sprinting in transition and playing 3 times harder and 3 times more selflessly than AJ Dybantsa, it blows my mind that Caleb at 3 isn't the consensus right now.
I think it will be by the time the draft rolls around, unless I feel like I'm taking crazy pills if not, but I'm right there with you. I've got Peterson 1, Boozer 2, Caleb 3, Dybantsa 4 at the moment, and I haven't gone through the rest of the draft. It's possible someone's going to arise who bumps Dybantsa lower than 4, and we'll get to talking about AJ and why we don't have him in the top 3, any of us. But with Caleb, the athleticism is otherworldly, and that's the selling point. But he's also not just like run and dunk man. I'll get back to the dunks in a second, but he is a really good passer. He kind of reminds me, again, comp Tourette's, of he's got the Jalen Johnson skill set of like a guy who's going to average 20, 10, and 5, really good rebounder, dunks the shit out of everything, and then is also a quite advanced passer, I'd say, for like his typical prototype. Like, to Drew's point, you did not see Jeremy Grant making the type of passes that Caleb makes when he was a freshman in college. Same with like OG Anunoby, some of his athletic and physical kind of comparisons. So the passing's a selling point. The fact that he dunks everything, he's got a much more advanced mid-range game than I would have expected. And then the heart and hustle and motor. But big thing that I've sort of I've been deep diving the draft since 2022. So this is the 5th draft I've done. Guys, if they're going to be all-stars in the NBA, almost always they need to make it look easy in college. Like, if you're going to dominate at the NBA level, you need to be like head and shoulders above the competition in college. And there is no easier shot in basketball, if you can do it, than a dunk. For me, maybe not the easiest shot in basketball, but for Caleb Wilson, probably the easiest shot. He leads the entire country in dunks. He has 66 dunks on the season. Second place is 57. He has more dunks than Cam Boozer and AJ Dybantsa put together, which, like, granted, that's not the way that their games are geared, but like it shows that he's generating easy looks for himself at the basket, which that's,
he also, like, it's not all grab and go coast to coast into a Euro and dunk on someone, which he can do, and he looks like baby Giannis. And let's be real, he looks more dangerous than 19-year-old Giannis, but that's a whole different context. I'm
glad you said the Giannis name and not me.
He gets a lot of. He creates dunks in half court too, because he's 6'10" and he jumps like a 6'6" dunk contest candidate. Yeah, second jump, third jump. There isn't an athletic trait in which he isn't special, and he looks like he has a frame that will fill out. And I think that his path to being a number one scorer is he gets in the sort of strength program that Giannis did, just completely changes his already special body to a point where he gets all those easy points, just going downhill, not even needing all the guile and trickery in the world to get to the basket because he's that special of an athlete. But he's sort of clever like Giannis too in the way that he bumps you and spins. It's not all raw athleticism, but I do think people get a little bit carried away when they see like in half court Caleb Wilson back you down and hit like a fading turnaround J. Like those flashes are awesome, and they tell you that with the right skill development, he can easily become like the next wing who was a little bit raw and develops like a Kawhi-esque scoring game, although Kawhi's development is unique
or something.
Yeah. There's enough there to believe in it, but it is still raw. Like the half court scoring, it isn't layered, it isn't super nuanced, but you mentioned the passing flashes. Like there's just enough there in every bucket for you to say, I'm betting on the athlete, I'm betting on the competitor.
Yeah, the only concern really for me is his ability as like a primary creator. Like he might be like an Aaron Gordon or something at the next level where he's just feasting off of looks that another like awesome creator is getting for him.
But to your point, Arizona Aaron Gordon did not make it look nearly this easy.
Yeah. And yeah, that's really what it comes down to. And we'll get to AJ Dybantsa too, who I think is the reason why I'm lower on him is that he does not make things look incredibly easy. But Coach, I feel like you have one more Caleb point before we go to that.
Yeah, just one more on Caleb. 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks, 2.8 stocks. Like I said that Darren has really strong hands. I think Caleb has really active hands. Like he's just disrupting plays on both ends constantly. I need him to be able to shoot more than 1.13 per game. Like right now he's shooting 25% from that. If he's going to be what I think he really can be, that's got to be higher there too. There's a player comp that I'm scared to say, but I'm just going to say it. Like, I think if he could fill out and really like hone it in, like Miami Heat Bosch is a little bit there offensively for me in terms of like a little bit of that face-up game, playing off ball of really good primary creator. So he doesn't have that role where he has to like create for everybody. But I think, offensively active dunking, running the baseline there into the dunker spot. I don't know if he's gonna be Bosch, but that was one that kind of popped into my mind just now.
That's not that scary.
I don't see it because that was Bosch's like stretch 5 era. However, I also get the sense that he will find whatever role is most beneficial to his team. Like, and if that means that defense is his calling card his first few years in the league, he'll happily buy in.
Yeah,
I kind of like. I want to see a world where imagine if he and Cam ended up in the same program as like a 4 or 5 this year in college. It would have been bonkers, but
yeah. Instead they play each other this Saturday. Yeah, the comp that scares me that I'm too scared to say, but I'm going to say anyway, is that, which Drew mentioned, is that he really does have some plays that look like Giannis in the open court. Like maybe it's the 98th percentile outcome, but there's like a Giannis outcome, I feel like, for him on the board. And that's why I like Jalen Johnson, because I feel like that's kind of like a diet Giannis sort of comparison for him. And I'm sort of morally opposed to comping prospects to Hall of Famers just because those are such rare outcomes. So yeah, Siakam, Drew, you mentioned that one. I like that one a lot. Aaron Gordon as kind of more of like a median outcome. Jalen Johnson with just higher motor is one I keep coming back to, but I love him. The last guy who we're going to touch on, AJ Dybantsa, who entered the year as the consensus number 1. A couple years ago, we were saying, Cooper Flagg is great, but AJ Dybantsa the year after is like really the wing that you want to be going for. For the record, by the way, I think if Cooper Flagg was in this draft, he would go number 1 overall as a prospect, not with like what we've seen in the NBA, just like as a prospect last year, he was that good. You guys feel free to chime in on that too. I feel like, do we all agree on that? That Flagg's better than Peterson? Okay.
Yes.
It's really hard for me to put myself in a standardized draft to draft thing. I should start doing like tiers agnostic of draft class. I haven't thought about it hard enough, but at the very least, like Coop would be, it would be a top 3 conversation. It wouldn't be a sure thing for me, Coop over Darren.
Fair. Okay. Also speaks to how good Darren is as a prospect.
Yeah,
but
and it's about what we knew then. After seeing Cooper Flag the last few weeks, I would take him over everyone in this draft just because we've seen it on an NBA floor.
Yeah. With Dybantsa, when you just turn on a BYU game, if you've never seen him before, like you can immediately tell which guy is the prospect because he's 6'9", he's crazy long. He looks like I feel like he's going to have some sort of crazy measurement at the combine, whether it's like his hand size or his wingspan. Something just looks kind of freakish with the way that he moves, like kind of glitchy. And he's got like a pretty good looking shot from the mid range. He feasts on a diet of kind of turnaround mid range jumpers, which in comparison to Caleb Wilson, this is why I have Caleb higher, is when Dybantsa plays, it doesn't look nearly as easy for him because he's scoring on these like drives through traffic where he's drawing fouls, which is a skill, but he has to work really hard for those. Or he's like backing down and shooting his sort of 15-foot turnaround, which again is nowhere near as easy of a look as Caleb is generating with all the dunks that he gets. So with Dybantsa, you see the appeal because he's a 6'9", like wing shot creator, which is what the NBA has been built on over the last decades with, LeBron, Kevin Durant, Paul George, Jason Tatum, like these big wings who can dribble, pass, and shoot. Dybantsa profiles as a guy who might be able to do that, but I worry with how difficult it's looking in college for him to sort of get his shots off and generate separation against really elite competition. That's just going to translate to the NBA where it's going to be even harder for him. And he's just going to be subsisting on tough mid-range shots. But Drew, where are you at on Dybantsa?
I'm just out. I'm out. Like he's a special talent. I watched him when he was 16 play on like a Facebook live stream in some AAU tournament. And it was a tournament where the whatever Maine team was also playing. Maine Celtics? No, that's their G League team. But Coop was playing, not against AJ in the game that I saw. But I remember thinking and saying this to you guys for like a year. Cooper Flag is special, but he's not the best American prospect right now. Mm-hmm. AJ Dybantsa is that guy. There, you heard the cough. It's not great. AJ stalled in his development and feels a lot to me like a symptom of some of the things that are wrong with like modern basketball culture. He just pounds the air out of the rock to an extent that like is not me being picky. Like it's really a thing. And if you draft him, your offense is built around him because I have zero faith in his ability to find a role in an offense. Like he literally just stands on the perimeter with his hands out like, all right, give me the ball now. Even like, BYU's other elite players like Richie Saunders, like don't have a chance to cook before AJ Dybantsa is asking for the ball back. And when he gets it, it's 4 dribbles into a back down, into a turnaround, and maybe some dark arts to get the foul call. And he's incredible at it. And his production this year speaks for itself. But he really lacks self-awareness as a teammate offensively. And I would be scared to say I'm going all in on him as my number 1 scorer because it's hard for me to see him accepting any other fate. And to me, that just sounds like he's like the Tracy McGrady of DeMar DeRozan's, and he ends up somewhere like Sacramento, averaging a shit ton of points, putting up an all-time highlight tape of buckets, and not winning a lot of games.
Yeah, for his sake, I really hope he does not go to Sacramento. Coach,
that would be bad. Agreed with both of you. I'm out. I saw him play against Clemson at the Garden, and I was like, oh, maybe I was wrong. I was going into the game being out. He had a good game. Was really excited to see him live this weekend. We know what happened.
But he didn't have a good game.
He didn't. No, I'm saying we know what happened with my sickness. I got people texting me like, oh, he had a decent game. 6 of 12, all second half, all empty stats.
They're down 20 all the time.
Yeah, when I was coaching at Muhlenberg, in our recruiting, I learned something that our head coach told me where there's elite shot takers and then there's elite shot makers. He is a elite shot taker. He will take crazy shots that look awesome on a tape, that looks great to the Twitter hands, that looks great to everybody looking that way. those elite shot takers don't lead to wins. I don't think he's going to lead to winning basketball at the next level. Drew, you said it perfectly. If he goes to Sacramento, he's going to put up great stats. They're not going to win games. I think, as you guys were both saying, he dribbles the ball out of control. He's dribbling it. Nobody else is getting involved. Saunders had, 10 threes in the second half there against Kansas. You wouldn't know that unless AJ wasn't on the court or AJ was somehow getting double teamed and not having the ball. Like, this guy does not lead to winning. He's an amazing athlete. He draws a lot of fouls, 8.4 attempts per game. That's great. I just would not want to put the keys to my franchise in AJ's hands. And that's why I don't think it's even close with him and Caleb. It's not even close with him and Cam. I would stay away.
I largely agree with most of the stuff you guys have said. I'm definitely not as low on him as you two are. Although partially I need to, decide how I feel about Kingston Flemings and some of the guys a little bit lower on the board. But there is definitely like a taller DeMar DeRozan thing, as you were saying, Drew, where it might be that all he does is like take elbow turnarounds and draw fouls. And that's just his offensive diet, which, look, DeMar DeRozan's carved out a really nice career for himself. But I would not take him over any of the other three guys we discussed either, in Boozer, Peterson, or Wilson. The things that give me a little bit more optimism about Dybantsa compared to like Ace Bailey, for example, or some of the other, gifted shot takers that we've seen in the past, to use Coach's term, is he does draw a lot of fouls, which Ace Bailey did not. Ace Bailey was like purely a step back shooter. He was not like playing with a ton of physicality and going to the free throw line 8, 9, 10 times in a game. Dybantsa does do that. He has a mastery of the dark arts somehow. And whether that translates to the NBA or not, it remains to be seen. All four of these guys play with a ton of physicality and shoot a ton of free throws as a result. And in general, I think when you're being fouled a lot, it's a sign that guys are having trouble staying in front of you and they need to use their hands, and that leads to fouls. So the fact that he draws fouls is a plus with how big that he is and how good of a touch he has from the mid-range. He doesn't generate clean looks for himself at the basket is like what I keep coming back to. He's not getting, whether it's his first step or his last step, he's not getting that extension to the rim where he has like clean, unperturbed looks at layups and dunks. And
Caleb Wilson, by the way, Caleb Wilson leads the NCAA in dunks right now by 10 dunks. And the list after him is all centers.
Yeah.
And Coach, like, you knocked Caleb's, 1.1 3-point attempts a game. And it worries me that he's not experimenting. I also love it. I love that he's like, this isn't my game yet. I score inside the arc right now. That's how I'm going to be efficient for my team. And with AJ, I keep seeing people question AJ's ability to get separation, and I agree. He takes a lot of contested shots. It's not even – I don't doubt his ability to create separation. Like, AJ is so fluid and incredibly nuanced as a driver, on-ball guy for his age at that size. It's special for sure. And yet I think it's almost a choice thing. I don't think he's going to choose to take the shots that will generate efficiency. Where I don't think just taking the shots where he has some separation is enough for him. He has this insatiable hunger for tough shots and mixtape building that I just don't want any part of. And if I'm wrong about AJ Dybantsa, it'll be because I'm a bit deranged in my distaste for the modern heliocentric star. Like, I even look at 2026 Luka Doncic, 2026 Jalen Brunson, 2026 James Harden, and also 2010s James Harden. And I don't want that on my team, even if it leads to winning. It's not a style of basketball I buy into. I think it dries up. And when that guy eventually asks for a trade, you're left with a bunch of 3-and-D noodles, and, they sapped you of all your draft picks. There's just an extreme selfishness to AJ's game that scares the hell out of me. And at least when you are that type of rock pounder, like, be the hardest working guy on defense. When Kawhi isn't passing the ball, he's still guarding his tail off. And Dybantsa is not an elite court mapper like those guys I just mentioned. And he doesn't show great, consistent defensive effort and IQ. And that's why I think he's going to be a highly paid, highly productive, losing player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Something I like to look at and ask myself when I'm like looking at college players and high school players is like, what can they do when they don't have it going? Like Darren, as I was saying, like defensively, he's going to rake at balls. He's going to make plays there. He's going to find open teammates. Cam Boozer, no question about it, will impact winning. Caleb Wilson, same exact thing. AJ, if he doesn't have the shot going, if the whistle isn't going his way, what is he doing to impact winning basketball? I really don't think that there is anything there. Like the one thing is like 6.4 rebounds per game. That should be higher. If you're going to be the best player on the team, like go get 8 boards a game. Like go be a guy that will disrupt the defensive glass, create second chance opportunities. I just think like he's not going to be a special winning basketball player if the scoring isn't there. What else does he actually do?
Yeah. All right. So to recap, we all have Darren Peterson 1. Coach, how big is the gap between Darren and Caleb in your mind?
There's a gap.
Okay.
There's a gap.
And Drew, between Cam and Darren in your mind, how big is the gap?
Small gap. Cam can do some things to get up there. If we start to hear weird intel on Darren, like his hamstring wasn't as bad as we thought, or he shut it down voluntarily, like I might question the intangibles just a little bit. I'm holding on to the tape of him on the court itself, which tells me he's a superstar and the best prospect in this draft. Big drop off from Cam to Caleb, just in terms of sure thing franchise cornerstone. Like again, Cam won't be the most glamorous, flashy, smooth, central bucket getter, but I'm more confident that Cam can be a rock you build around than Caleb. But I still love Caleb. And then after Caleb, it is a significant drop again. And I'm still figuring out who that number 4 is going to be. It will not be AJ Dybantsa. Again, and it's not because I don't recognize his tremendous talents. And in a lot of drafts, he'd go number 1 because we just salivate over 6'10" guys who score as easily as he does at the college level. But guys like Wagler, Kingston Flemings, there are a couple guys in the mix right now for me that I really like, who are going to have a chance at 4, and it will not be the BYU wing scorer.
All right. Great. Well, we did it. We made it through the live stream. Appreciate everyone who was watching along and following our trade talk or draft talk. Hope to be back here a little bit more often. But yeah, we will be back soon. Thank you, Coach, for joining. Thank you, Drew, for powering through your flu game. Yeah. Any final words?
If you're the guy who I played in my first game in this pickleball tournament on Saturday, I had a box come. I had a few friends at the tournament. I said, you all think I'm losing my mind. I've gotten addicted to pickleball these last several months. Come and see the product before you knock it. So I had a box. So I've got a few friends, hopefully 1 or 2 of them will be on the pod in the coming months, who witnessed like a 40-year-old man just lose his shit, call me gay, make fun of me for being bald, because he didn't like a call my teammate made. If you're listening to this pod, we're all good, man. I know it gets tense out there. Everyone's on edge. And I'll see you at the Deep Freeze tourney. I'll kick your ass all over again.
Let's go. It's the Pickle Pod. All right. Thank you, Coach, for joining. I'm sorry you didn't get to go to the Kansas game. That's truly one of the tragedies of the year.
It's all good. Thanks for having me. I'm going to make it into a yearly thing. Next year will be Duke, hopefully, with their iconic class coming in. But yeah, appreciate you having me again.
All right. We'll be back soon. Peace.